Oh, sorry about that, folks. I've been riddled with disease the last 8 months ever since Donald Trump took office and put RFK Jr. in charge of the CDC. You see, there's been salmonella, bird flu, flatworms, ringworms, brainworms, buttworms, dickworms, all sorts of different bacteria and molds and parasites and funguses just invading our country and infecting people in ridiculous rates. Probably my favorite example would be, unlike you, liberal, I don't get so easily triggered, and then proceeds to spread the plague. RFK has literally caused plague outbreaks in America, so I hope none of you guys are currently having your bodies eaten out from the inside by worms and parasites and mold. Though, with that said, let's go ahead and check out what is going on with RFK's handling of the country, because as it turns out, all these assumptions are absolutely true. RFK Jr., I know it's been a meme, like, aha, he's got brainworms, he drinks methylene blue, he's a conspiracy theorist, he doesn't believe in vaccines. It's easy to pass it off as a joke. Like, hey, at the end of the day, Americans, our health is controlled by a large group of scientists and doctors. You know, they're the people who make these decisions, who gather this data and whatnot, but you'd kind of be wrong, because right now, Donald Trump and his administration are cracking down on all nonpartisan positions who are not willing to toe the Trump line. What better place to attack than the outlet that so frequently harmed Trump's reputation during the pandemic, the CDC. So RFK, as head of the CDC, has been basically crippling it, and on top of all of that, as it turns out, he just hasn't even been doing his job. As much as he may talk about make America healthy again, he's not even doing his job. Like, not showing up, not refusing to do what he's supposed to do to keep Americans healthy. It's not even a matter of incompetence at this point. It seems like it's active malice. I guess it's ideology too, but let's hear about how many diseases we're all about to get. Enjoy your bodies while they're healthy, because RFK says if he has to have a brainworm, then everyone has to have a brainworm. That's just how it is. Let's watch.
Joining me now is Dr. Dimitri Daskalakis, one of the CDC officials who resigned in protest earlier this week. Dr. Daskalakis, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, we appreciate having your perspective today, and you were at the CDC for years. So this undoubtedly was an incredibly difficult decision for you to make. What made you want to ultimately resign?
Mass resignations from the CDC, folks, particularly some of the highest offices in the organization. There are no longer any adults in the room helping to steer our country in the right direction in a lot of areas, but most terrifyingly in the realm of health and disease. We are no longer tracking the rates of diseases. Hell, you know all those news stories we get about, like, an uptick in cases of the Black Plague happening in America as of late? How that's been reflecting poorly on RFK Jr.? That data will no longer even be collected. We will no longer get reports about the disease outbreaks. The beautiful part of it for the conservatives is not only do they get to make us sick, but we won't know that there is sickness spreading, which means we won't even know to prevent ourselves from getting sick. They're taking down all the parts of our government who are in charge of keeping us informed on these kind of things, which means, as a bonus for them, there's not going to be any government-supplied data that shows their lies are lies when it comes to the health of Americans. This is evil and scary. This is exactly why you need to start your own garden and learn how to hunt and arm yourselves. Like, fucking hell, dude. If there's ever been a time to start adopting that, like, borderline prepper conservative lifestyle, now's the time. You're almost certainly going to be safer in the next 3 years shooting a deer and cooking the meat yourself than going to the grocery store and hoping to God that whatever chicken or beef you get isn't filled with worms and parasites.
Yeah, so I was at CDC for about 5 years, and in government.
Dog, I'm not eating any pork I get from a store or restaurant for the next 3 years. Let me tell you, not until the CDC and FDA are back in tip-top shape. I am not eating any pork that comes from those places. Sorry, that's where all the real parasites hang out.
Environmental public health for over 10. And my guiding principles are that I'm a physician, and as a physician, I take the Hippocratic Oath, and that oath is to first do no harm.
Rip bacon. Listen, if I go out and find a hog to shoot and butcher, I'll do that. But I'm not buying the meat from the store and trusting it. Not when it comes to pork. That shit's got to be well cooked and well handled, and I don't trust it without an FDA and CDC that can do its job. That's my take. We're in crazy times right now. I think it's reasonable to establish some crazy standards.
And in the recent history at CDC, have seen it slowly being transformed into a weaponized organization that is being designed really to
Remember, the CDC is supposed to be nonpartisan, meaning it has no side. It serves no side. The right has pushed the lie, though, that in claiming that COVID existed, it joined with the left, and that the CDC is a hostile to conservatives organization that must be shut down and made conservative in order to restore balance and neutrality. Yeah, no.
achieve ideological goals rather than to deliver important public health messaging and services to support the health of people in America and, frankly, the globe. When I feel that I'm going to do harm, I have to make good on my oath, the thing that I did when I graduated from medical school, and the time had come. That, along with the fact that it seemed as if there was no way to have scientific leadership at CDC be maintained if Susan Menarez wasn't there anymore. That really meant for me that there was no way to really maintain the firewall between ideology and science. And so I think now it's inevitable that science will be contaminated by ideology unless people take our wake-up call here, our red flag, to really try to make.
Every conservative accusation is a confession, and this is the best example imaginable. They constantly accuse the CDC of being a partisan organization. It never was. It was just protecting Americans' health. They take power, immediately fire everybody, cripple the organization, so everyone who they can't fire resigns, and then now they're going to fill it up with yes men and turn it into an actually partisan organization just in favor of their side, rather than being the neutral organization it was before.
Make a change now.
You know, you said in your resignation letter, and I'll read just a little bit of it, that HHS policies do not reflect scientific reality, echoing what you've just said here. But my question for you, why not stay and fight if you think this void with Susan Menarez could be so devastating to the public's health? Why not stay and fight for public health?
Trust me, if I thought that there was a fight that I could fight in there, I would have stayed. And the reality is that there is now an irresistible force that is going to make it impossible for CDC to maintain the validity of its science against ideology, especially in the vaccine space, given what I'm seeing from HHS leadership. I stayed there during some really complicated times under the current secretary. I managed to sort of toe the line and make sure that we were able to end a measles outbreak in the US, the largest in the history since elimination, by really towing the line and making sure vaccines were first, but that we really created communication and strategies that also aligned to his vision. The list, we received a directive about changing COVID-19 vaccine for children and for pregnant women. And we were able to do that in a way that maintained access. I don't see a way out. If there are documents that make someone on the ACIP who doesn't really demonstrate any experience or belief in science, as far as I can see, makes them my boss and is the person who can direct the staff over and above the director of the CDC, and whose job it is to prevent CDC bias from entering the work group that will make very important recommendations to the Advisory Committee for Immunization Practices when that bias.
I'm gonna pretend like I understood what any of that meant. No, in all seriousness, what he's more or less explaining right now is that the CDC has no means by which they can actually fight against the partisan takeover. Right now, they are going to be putting tons of people in these positions of power, appointing people who are yes men that are going to just start, meticulously stopping any data, any research, any information from coming out that does not benefit their agenda. To continue working at the CDC at this point is basically just agreeing to stay there just to make it look like they haven't done what they have done. Like, I'm sure they would love to have some lame duck original positions still sitting in this part of the government so they can deny that they did a full-on purge. If everyone leaves and announces why they're leaving, it's harder to deny the obvious fact that they did a purge through our government of anyone who wasn't a team player for the Republican Party.
Does not exist. What that means, rather than prevent CDC bias, is allow their bias to influence the science. And there's no way out when it is, in fact, codified in policy.
So just the bottom line here, do you believe the public will be able to trust the information coming out of the CDC moving forward?
The answer to that is absolutely not, no matter what he responds with.
Yeah, I mean, I really hope that the answer is yes, but I don't think that it's going to be possible, especially in the vaccine space. I think that
he's trying to stay civil, but his answer here is very clearly no. No, this is the absolute undeniable destruction of the government being a trustworthy source on American health. Like, this is the end of that for at least now.
There has already been some attacks that are making me very concerned. Of course, there's some physical attacks that we can talk about that were related to vaccine mis and disinformation. But I think that there are also attacks.
What total percentage of our federal government do you think has been replaced by MAGA yes men at this point? Like, I'm really curious, like, next administration, is there going to have to be like a mass replacement again of our position? Because, like, that America is going to be fucked by a lot of the people put in power here. And there's going to be outcry to fix the problems caused by them. So you're going to have to replace them with competent, non-ideological people who aren't just trying to cripple the country to make a Democrat in office look bad. So, like, I'm pretty sure all these people are going to get offered their jobs back again in, like, 3 years. How crazy is that going to be? It's like, yes, my 4-year hiatus from working in government is over. Time to get back to my position, as now America's government exists again.
Around things that have already been litigated that will really, I think, erode trust in vaccines, really interventions that have prevented millions of diseases that have allowed us to have healthy children. And so I do think that that's not the source that you should go to right now. You should cross-check it with your clinician. Talk to your doctor, talk to your pharmacist, see how they're interacting with their professional organizations. Ask them, what do you think about the Pediatric Association's guidelines around COVID vaccines and maybe other vaccines? I think it's really time to take this with a grain of salt, because I think that the data that's going to be used to make these decisions is going to be compromised, because there's no way that it is going to be protected from ideology.
Just to boil down what you're saying.
Unless we make a change, unless there's a change.
Well,
He cooked. It's exactly the right point.
Well, and to boil down what you're saying, Secretary Kennedy has long pushed the disputed claim that there's a link between vaccines for children and autism. This has been debunked by the science for the past more than 2 decades now. Is that the crux of your concern?
Literally, like a psychotic actress is the source of the claim that vaccines cause autism. It was a nonsense documentary made by like a disgraced actress. I'm not even joking. Like, it's literally like the talking point that vaccines cause autism started in Hollywood. Yes, they pulled from bunk data to make those claims, but no one pulled. No one was reading Dr. Wakefield's nonsense research, Hawk. But that fucking documentary popularized that mindset and those talking points way beyond any of the source material they pulled from would have ever reached on its own. Like, I forget who was it? What was the name of the actress that made that, like, the washed-up actress who made that documentary? It was like, I forget. Was it Jenny McCarthy? I think it was Jenny McCarthy. How dare vaccines take all the credit for my autism? Exactly! That was my work! Yeah, it was Jenny McCarthy, Andrew Zagola? Okay.
And is that the crux of the argument with Susan Menares, that there's going to be an attempt to push that type of policy forward, an ideology forward?
I mean, let's make a list. The secretary went on a video and said that that mRNA vaccines didn't do anything in the pandemic, and they're the most dangerous vaccines known to humanity. That's wrong. That's untrue. The vaccines for COVID helped end the pandemic, and their safety track.
No one remembers this, but I do, because I don't remember. I don't forget anything. My brain is a fucking bear trap, dude. I'm like an elephant. Xander Hall never forgets, okay? I remember when Donald Trump was talking about the famed Operation Warp Speed. Donald Trump was like, we're gonna come out with the best vaccine. It's gonna come out faster than any vaccine. It's gonna be the best vaccine that's ever been made. And MAGA was like, yes, the vaccine, Operation Warp Speed. Donald Trump is gonna bring us the cure. The vaccine will save us all, yes. And some people, progressives admittedly, were like, Warp Speed? I don't think our goal here should be whatever is fastest. I think it should be whatever works best. So I'm a little concerned that Trump's top priority here is getting something out as fast as possible. That's a little concerning to me. And so the people who were a little bit hesitant about the vaccines at first were actually people on the left, people who criticized Trump. But then Trump wasn't in office when the vaccine dropped. In fact, it was Moderna, Pfizer, and the other list of like very top of the list pharmaceutical companies that came out with their individual first rounds of the vaccine. And because Trump was out of office by that point, Biden was presiding over the dissemination of the vaccine. They needed to turn it into something negative. They couldn't allow Biden beating COVID to be like a narrative that took off. So they immediately became anti-vaccine, despite months before, when Trump was in office, they were all in favor of Operation Warp Speed.
Track record is strong. There are safety issues. Yes, people do have adverse events. There's no such thing as a zero risk vaccine, nor is there such a thing as a 100% effective vaccine. So that's number one. We can also talk about the fact that, there is, I think that we have signals that there's going to be retrofitting of data or analyses of data that really aren't based in any good scientific methods that are going to come to a conclusion that something is causing autism as well as other diseases related to vaccines. I think alum is going to be pointed at. That's another part of the vaccine that makes sure that it causes the immune system to react appropriately to protect.
He's talking about different compounds used in the vaccines that conservatives freak out about. Like, oh my God, there's formaldehyde. They put alum in it. Oh my God, these things are poisonous. It's like, well, it's not poisonous in the beyond microscopic doses used in the vaccines, where they serve a very distinct purpose. And yeah, some vaccines have some adverse side effects when you use them. It happens. The COVID vaccines have had them less over time because they've improved them, but they're kind of famous for it. What is it? 2 out of 3 people that get the COVID vaccine feel some decent noticeable side effects from it for a day or two. It sucks. Some vaccines have side effects, and that's not killing you. It's literally saving your life. Your immune system, to adjust to something, to learn how to fight something, your immune system's got to do the fighting. Your immune system, when you're sick, the feeling like shit when you're sick is your immune system doing its job. The chills, the heat, the fever, all that stuff, the vomiting, the snot, the coughing, everything. That's your immune system fighting whatever's in your body. When a lot of vaccines, or some vaccines, activate your immune system, you feel a little shitty, and a lot of Trump supporters and anti-vaxxers think, oh, I got vaccinated, and then I felt like shit for the next 2 days, must mean the vaccine was bad for me. Many of them don't understand that when you're sick, the majority of what makes you feel like shit is just your body killing what's inside of you that is actually hurting you. It's everything from the fever to the chills and the sweating and the vomiting and the snot and the coughing and the sneezing and if you get diarrhea, that too, it's also your immune system helping you out. So, uneducated people, it's very easy to convince them when they feel bad after doing something that was the cause of their feeling bad, or that feeling bad must mean something bad has happened to their health. This is why you can convince so many conservatives to go on an all-meat diet if you get them to believe that one day when they ate nothing but meat that day, they felt better than they usually do. If that coincidence ever happens, you will be able to sell them on the idea that they should have an all-meat diet, because they'll assume that correlation equals causation with literally a single sample, a bit of sample data of one, Yeah.
people from the pathogen that they're being vaccinated against. They're going to have a story about alum. They already had a story about thimerosal that led to the removal of thimerosal from the 4% of influenza vaccines that had it. That's not a very big win. Based on science that is really debunked. The FDA website right now has a website that is very clear showing that thimerosal, that preservative, does not have any adverse events associated with it, especially in the space of autism and other neurocognitive issues. Nevertheless, because there's a half truth somewhere in there that maybe it's great to prevent having people being exposed to anything extra that they don't need, we get to the place where a hunch is enough to remove a vaccine from the market. That is not a good precedent.
We are about to be a very sickly country, folks. They're pulling vaccines off the market. RFK now gets to decide what vaccines get pulled off the market, guys. Need I say anything more than that?
Let me ask you about comments that you recently made in which you said that Secretary Kennedy has never been briefed by your group on COVID,
of course
measles,
not.
other viruses. Can you explain that? Did you reach out to Secretary Kennedy? Were briefings offered to him? Did he refuse them? What exactly does it mean that Secretary Kennedy was never briefed? What did that look like?
Yeah, I'll start by saying I've never met Secretary Kennedy. I wasn't there when he visited CDC after the attack, the gun attack on CDC, through his staff, some of which have been fired, others who are still there. Every time I met with them in any space, I said, we would love to brief the secretary, especially on topics that are important and are higher profile and important to the health of America. I thought that it was great to offer a briefing on measles. That was not something that we were ever allowed to do. I offered briefings on H5N1, on bird flu. That was not taken up. I said, we're happy to talk about vaccines in general. And that was through some of the folks that work in his office of the secretary. I offered those at senior leader meetings at CDC. There were many people present. You can ask Dr. Howery, you can ask Dr. Jernigan, and it was crickets. We heard nothing back. So he has never been briefed by any of the CDC experts on any of these diseases.
He thinks he knows better. Best case scenario. Genuinely. Best case scenario is RFK thinks he knows better than all these experts and refuses to hear them talk because he thinks he already knows anything they could tell him or that he knows more than they could tell him. That's the best case scenario, because the more likely and frankly worst case scenario is that RFK isn't just incompetent, but overtly malicious. A sickly, weakened America that can barely survive day to day is not going to rise up against this, fascist government that we're all about to be living under. A sickly, weak America can't do a revolution to take back their right to vote, own guns, speak, burn the American flag, go to school. Hell, right now, I was just told by my mom earlier about the fact that tons of people are losing their jobs right now if it has anything to do with requiring accommodations for disabilities. Like a lot of different places, like big companies, big corporations are firing any of their workers with any kind of disability that requires even the most minor types of compensation or acknowledgement or help or whatever it might be. This is part of the big anti-DEI shutdown. I think they want Americans sick and weak, just trying to struggle to survive day by day and stay healthy. Because how can you focus on how America's falling apart if you're trying to just keep yourself from dying of the plague? I think they really want Americans to live like Industrial Revolution, Victorian era Englishmen in London. They want us all to have black lung, to be riddled with syphilis and other such illnesses, to be spending every last penny and copper that we get on our drinks, food, and living situation, just to prolong going to work the next day to get more black lung. And of course, you get your first job at 10, 8, 9 years old when your hands are nice and small, and they can like reach into the dangerous machinery. You know, like I think that's the kind of America they want to make. And when you're like sick and weak and downtrodden enough, I think they assume there won't be enough strength to resist against them. I think that's their hope.
Specifically vaccine preventable diseases, which seem to be a pretty significant piece of his agenda.
Now, the thing they're probably forgetting, though, is when you do that to people, historically, they fucking kill you.
What do you think are the implications of Secretary Kennedy never having been briefed on a range of different diseases that could be prevented by vaccines?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the question that everyone should be asking is, if you're not being briefed by your experts, who's briefing you? Where are you getting your information? You know, I think I gave the example of what we heard about mRNA vaccines from the secretary, that they didn't help anything in the pandemic and that they were the most dangerous vaccine known to humanity. But we also had the secretary saying that the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine caused more harm than it does good. We also heard that from him that
it's bad, guys. This is a bad state of affairs for American health. I can't emphasize it enough how bad this is, okay? I know I'm usually like very chill, laid back, calm with my commentary, almost like almost uncaring when I talk about stuff like this, like sarcastic about it, but I cannot emphasize enough how serious I am. This is so fucking bad. Like so bad and so scary.
It doesn't last long enough, or it has that there's waning immunity, and that's contrary to anything that our experts would say to him. So I don't know where he's getting that information. I mean, if I were still there, I would offer in the same spirit. I would love to give him the opportunity to hear from the people who are the world experts. Every country in the world calls us to learn about measles, to learn about COVID, to learn about these vaccine preventable diseases. We are the leaders in the world. It's strange that our own secretary won't listen to our experts and says it very clearly. Don't believe the experts.
Well,
That's
let me
true.
ask you, as we look forward, the president has tapped HHS Deputy Secretary Jim O'Neill to be the acting CDC director. What do you make of that decision, that choice?
No doubt, stupid decision.
Just as I did with the secretary, you know, I always give people, you know, really the benefit of the doubt and a chance. And I'll just put us in a time machine. When the secretary started, he gave an address to HHS saying that he was coming in with no preconceived notions and wanted us to approach him in the same way. And I did that, trying to sort of meld our science with what his vision is. And I'll say the same with Jim O'Neill. I don't know him. I'm not familiar with his resume. I understand that he is not a scientist, but has some experience in governmental public health at HHS. So I hope that he, in those experiences, understands the importance of engaging with scientists and really supporting the science so that America's health can be optimized, so that people know what to do with the best science, so they don't get sick from any of these infections. And though I talk about infectious diseases, CDC does a lot more, like, you know, follow the science on how to prevent overdose.
Well, thinking of overdoses, drownings, this was a big story we covered recently, was that Trump defunded the entire sector of the CDC that focused on tracking and collecting data on drownings and using said data to help inform the Red Cross. You know, like that's valuable data that was getting collected. Now it's like, well, we don't know how many children are drowning in the country each year because that entire sector of our government that collects data and reports said data doesn't exist anymore. We don't know how big or small of a problem drownings are, and we're not going to know how big or small of a problem the plague is, or any number of things are. Do you have any idea how much cancer research has just been fully defunded and shut down? I cannot emphasize to you guys how many, like, millions, hundreds of millions of lives worth of cancer research has been thrown in the trash by Donald Trump. Fully defunded, everyone working on it fired, and the entire department shut down, with all of their work incinerated, probably. Like, it is bad, guys. It is really bad. We've taken a step back, maybe 100 years of progress in many other areas than just politics, just because of this one presidency.
follow the science on how to prevent injury, follow the science on how to prevent chronic diseases. And so, and my hope is that someone who's a leader of large organizations, which he has been, will understand that the best thing to do is listen to your experts. If I became the CEO of a hedge fund, I would definitely want his advice.
Very quickly, before I let you go, Senator Bill Cassidy, who is a doctor, expressed—
For those that don't know, hedge funds are evil.
Real concern over the firing of Susan Menares. And he said, quote, "I'm committed to the president's vision, which is why the HELP committee will conduct oversight." Do you have confidence that Congress can conduct effective oversight over the decision to fire Susan Menares?
So I'm an American, and I believe in the power of our system. I believe in the power of the people that we elect. I believe in their vision, and I believe in their ability to make a change. So I'm here with no job, raising a red flag in the hope that those red flags really inspire the right action from our elected officials. So, again, just like I walked in optimistic with the secretary, and I'm optimistic with the acting director of CDC, I'm going to be optimistic as well that these folks will do the right thing and make sure that they protect the health of America rather than focusing on ideologies or other agendas.
All right.
I know he's saying he's going to be optimistic and everything. That's very clearly just him trying not to scare people, trying to be he doesn't want to look bad by doomsaying and then nothing really comes of it and then he looks a fool, I doubt he also wants to look too bitter about, not working there anymore, even though he did step down. So, to be very clear, he does kind of have to soften his language, be a little politically correct about it. The fact is, we're fucked. Not really. I don't want to doomer, but we're in a bad situation right now. But here's what I need you guys to understand. Bad situation does not mean, oh fuck, we're done, oh shit, oh it's over, oh god, oh no. That's not what it means. Nuh-uh. The worse things get, the more you need to yell about it. You need to never let up. You need to constantly make sure that people know what's going on. Inform people in your social life. Inform people in your friend groups. Inform people in your family. Try your best to tell people what's actually going on and get them to pay attention. The more things get worse, the more people are going to be willing to listen. It's going to get harder and harder to deny something's wrong if things are truly fucked beyond all, not repair, but fucked beyond all recognition, Anyway, folks, if you enjoyed this video and found it entertaining, educational, or enjoyable in any way whatsoever, then please consider leaving a like and a comment down below. Every single thumbs up and every single comment as well boosts the channel and the algorithm, forcing YouTube to show my content to new people who've never seen it before, helping to grow my sub count, grow my view counts, and just generally help the channel pop off more and reach a wider audience. It really does help a lot. In fact, I want to see if you guys can achieve the challenge of hitting 1,000 likes on this video in 24 hours. Same goes for 500 comments. Can you guys complete both challenges? I'm curious if you guys have what it takes to pull it off. Anyway, though, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell icon to turn on all notifications if you haven't already, if you want YouTube to tell you when I go live or upload new videos in the future. And of course, if you want to see more from me on other platforms, so you get, you can see more from me and be a part of the community a little closer, then join my fan Discord, which is linked down below in the description. It is the main hub of my fan base and community, and on top of that, I host weekly gaming events, call-in streams, watch parties, and movie nights every Friday, every week, including tonight. I really do hope to see you guys there. You won't regret it if you join, so it's going to be a good time. And finally, if you want to support me directly, financially, help me keep the lights on and a roof above my head here at the Xander Hall studio, then please consider donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub to someone else on my website, or supporting me financially through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Streamelements, or Patreon. Or even buying some custom Xander Hall merchandise through the Streamlabs link down below in the description of the stream, or my videos. It really does help a lot, and it means the world. Of course, YouTube, they give you about 45% of the ad revenue that you make as a creator. It's a 50-45 split, or 55-45 split. with YouTube. So if it weren't for you guys directly supporting the channel, being a smaller creator myself, I wouldn't be able to do this full time. So I really appreciate your direct support. It really does mean a lot. But of course, you don't need to feel pressure to donate to me. A like and a comment means the world and helps a ton. It really does. And it's totally free. With all that said, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again next time.